I was off on Easter holidays. There was plenty of work to be done on the farm, and I had a friend, Jonathan McLaughlin, who was 16 years of age, and he was going to help me drive the tractor on the road. I was only 12 years of age, and we were slowly put out that day on the Monday, the Easter Monday. We had got the tractor rigged up to the slough tanker. Everything was going according to plan. My father told me earlier on that day of what the do's and the don'ts, and one of the things of what not to do was doing any moving parts. For example, the PDO shafts or anything that would cause me harm or him harm. So we sped slowly all day and came to about 7:45 at night, and I could hear my mother shout that our tea was ready, and we sort of at that stage had come to the end of the day nearly. My father says, "That'll do you today, you've done enough." But I says, "Daddy, one more load will finish the field." And he says, "Well, okay, one more load only," and then he says, "That's us finished for the day, and we'll start something new tomorrow." And I got up and ran out past the window, but I could hear my mother call me back. And she says, "William, come on and back and put on that coat." So I went back and put on the coat and ran on out, didn't bother zipping it up because I knew it wouldn't be long out. And Jonathan was up on the tractor, and the tractor PDO shaft was running at 1500 RPM. Everything was going according to plan. I had nothing to do, just stand and watch. But I felt the tanker wasn't sucking the slough in as quickly as I would have liked it. And there's a little regulator at the top of the vacuum pump at the front of the tanker, and I thought I would adjust it. It says 1 drop of vacuum out every 4 seconds. And as I started to adjust it, I could feel a tugging sensation. And automatically I knew it was wrong. And I remember looking up to Jonathan and saying, "Stop the tractor quickly." The next thing I realised was I was caught in the PDO shaft. I was flung instantly onto the ground, and looking below the drawbar, I can see Jonathan run away from me into the distance. It's at this stage lying on the ground I realised that my life's possibly over. And I got up onto my feet, and I remember looking down, and there's no clothes on me, all bar a pair of underwear and socks. And I remember putting my hand up because I can't see it in my right eye, and this whole side of my face, there's huge swelling because of the impact on the ground with the PDO shaft. But my brain's telling me I have 2 arms, but when I look around to my right, there's an arm lying beside me, and this is my arm. I remember walking calmly over to the house, and I can see Jane looking out of the window. 5 minutes previous I left out of the house with 2 arms. I'm coming in 5 minutes later with only 1 arm. And I remember her shouting to my father, "Quickly, Daddy, William's come up the street with only 1 arm." And we raced to Elton Galvin Hospital. And I'm holding on to the wound with my left hand. And he says, "Let go of it." And I did so. And he says, "William," he says, "there's no blood coming out of that wound." He says, "You're going to die shortly." And I says, "Why, Daddy?" Well, he says, "William, if there's no blood coming out of your wound, you're bleeding inwardly." And he says, "Eventually," he says, you'll drown in your own blood." And he says, "You'll close your eyes for the last time." Jane, in the meantime, went out at 17 years of age to pick up her brother's arm out of the slurry and bring it into the house and wash it under tap and put ice packs on top of the towel and wrap my arm in the ice packs and the towel to preserve it. They tried to sew my arm on after about 14 hours of surgery, but because it wasn't a clean cut, the arm would be about 4 inches shorter. So they had to make that terrible decision of detaching the arm again. I think the accident was caused by my coat not being zipped up that night, because it would have been more closer to my body and there'd been less loose clothing flapping about. It had got windy, the shaft's running round, the coat has some contact with that PDO shaft. And if this old guard had been on the PDO shaft that day, no matter what the weather was like, whether my coat was zipped or not, there was absolutely no chance of me getting caught in the PDO shaft. It takes 17 feet of material in every 1 second, so there was no chance for me to rectify what had started to take place. Looking back from the mistakes that I made, I would emphasise that you take a bit more time to think what you're about to do, so the same thing doesn't happen to you as what happened to me. And you sometimes think, why me? And oh, it'll never happen to me. But the other side of the coin is it could happen to you. I'm just thankful I'm alive and here to tell this story today.